everyone. Welcome to the Bad Art Show with me, Jenna Sparrow. And I have my guests with me today, CJ Landry and Tony. I'm going to fuck up your last name.
Give it a shot.
Casillas?
Casillas, not even close.
Casillas. I put a T in there. I wasn't going to get it anyways.
It's a German name.
No, it's Hispanic. No, my German name, my grandpa's name is Dela. That's a very German name.
How do you spell it?
Dehler.
Dela.
Okay, so funny story about my white trash family. My grandmother's name, my whole life was Loretta, and I always thought it was that. And then when she died, it turned out her name was actually Larita, but my racist grandfather thought that sounded too ethnic. So he changed her name to Loretta, which is very funny. And then everyone argued about what should be put on her gravestone.
What'd you guys put?
I think they ended up going with Loretta because no one knew it was Larita anyways, because he'd changed it when she was like in her 20s.
And also, you don't want your racist family going to the grave site and going like, oh, that's an ethnic grave.
Larita.
Yeah.
What the heck?
She's a total white woman. I don't know.
That's not my wife.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, she was German too. That's what's fun. Not like, I think her parents were German or something like that. So Larita was not ethnic, unless you consider Germany to be ethnic.
Yeah,
Do you know the last name?
I don't know her maiden name now. I'm not sure.
That is weird. Everybody, even in Louisiana, like my ancestry and people in my family, they were not, like, they were ashamed of being like French.
Yeah.
And so they would try to change it. Even then, they were like, they hate French people here. And then and then like my mom's maiden name is like Boudreaux, so it's like there's nothing they could do. It's like it's just so bad. It's like they can't change that.
There's
like
no English equivalent to that one.
So much letters.
Boudreaux just sounds like a dog's name. That's like
I know that is a dog name.
It's not the French part that makes me mad.
Everyone's dog name in Louisiana is Boudreaux.
That's the name of a Frenchie, like an actual French
or it's Beau, and they're like, it's short for Boudreaux. It's like, motherfucker, dude.
All right. Well, today's topic that we're not going to get through, but we're going to try. This was a special request and a good one, I will say, from Tony. We're doing German Expressionism. So, have you ever heard of this?
I've never heard of this.
Okay.
And an expressionism, I don't even know what expressionism means.
So this is going to be after. So let's think about this. So this is early 20th century. And it's going to be after Impressionism. So we're coming into the 20th century. It's going to be bold colors, lots of emotions. This is going to be less academic and rigid than the movements before.
Do you know what Impressionism is?
No.
So that was more like paint. When you see a painting and you're like, oh, that looks exactly like the image. So someone paints like a building and it looks exactly alike.
Well, that's realism.
Oh, realism.
So realism and then Impressionism is it gives you the impression of that realistic thing.
Yeah.
So we're thinking like Monet, it gives you the impression of the water lilies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so it's moving away from that realism, but then Expressionism is even farther away from that realism. So now we're really getting into a little bit more of an abstract.
So would you say like Picasso's Expressionism?
Well, he's Cubism, but he is a modern painter.
Fuck.
So, it's just a little bit more niche, but he is a modern painter. So he's around, I can't think of what year Picasso's born, but this is sort of that same time period.
All right.
Yeah.
Also, we're getting a grade at the end of the podcast, and CJ, you're already failing.
Yeah, I'm lost. Cubism? I mean, what the f***? There's shapes now?
1881.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is almost perfectly with Picasso's time period then.
All
so
right.
we're coming right at the turn of the century into the 20th century.
Nailed it.
I should also say I am not a historian, so I'm also learning some of this with you guys. Some of it I know, some of it I don't. So this movement, because it's also at a time where there's a big industrial push, we're getting new forms of making art, or I guess I should say things are becoming popular that weren't as popular before. Like this is a time when woodcuts and printmaking become really popular, kind of have a revival, I guess, because they were also around in the 1500s. But they kind of come back. So we have a lot of printmaking, a lot of painting, and also the introduction of film. And I'm not going to go into the film because that's kind of its own category, but this is when silent films come about, and this style actually lend itself to German filmmaking as well. So, yeah.
Silent films. I don't know how anyone sat through that.
What do you mean? If
I've tried watching the silent films and it's tough.
Yeah, but that's also like, I don't know. Imagine you've never seen a movie.
Yeah, I could see that, but I'm just saying
you've
it's
never
like,
seen a moving picture.
damn, bro.
A motion picture, that would be crazy the first
There's a
time.
story that when the one of the first live viewings of a moving picture was a train and it was coming towards the screen and apparently everybody in the movie theater got up and ran out because they got so scared.
Yeah, people like freaked a
Don't you
little
wish
bit.
you could like go back in time and just put on Dark Knight for those people and just fuck their brains up?
They're like,
so awesome.
yeah, they're just sitting there. They're like, wait, you live long enough to be the villain?
They have no concept of what they would have no concept of what Batman is even. I mean, it would just be such a mind.
I like how that's the thing you're hung up on.
The
That they
Dark
don't
Knight.
know Batman.
That would be sick to go back in time and show them Dark Knight.
Oh, just
and then show them Dark Knight Rises, and they're like, well, it wasn't as good as the Dark Knight.
If we're being honest, yeah.
Christopher Nolan might be losing it. I don't know.
Right. So what else was I going to say about this time period? This is before the Nazis. So this is after the Franco-Prussian War. So coming into World War I, not quite World War I, and then through World War I, but before World War II.
Yeah.
So that's the whole time frame that we're looking at right now. This is also coming about right as Germany is developed as a country. So a lot of people think Germany's been there forever. It hasn't. It's a unified, a bunch of smaller states that were Prussian states and also Austrian. I'm not going to get into that war. But anyways, this art is going to be distorted human figures. It's going to be bold, angular lines, lots of psychological stuff, and social themes that have to do with labor movements. And it's going to be pretty freaking awesome. So let's look at some of these paintings.
whoa.
It was blowing me up.
Whoa.
All right, so this is actually the movement before that I wanted to point back to because part of, these are actually really cool. I love both of these paintings. So part of the thing that made the Expressionists stand out is that everyone fucking hated them when they started.
Yeah.
They were denied to be able to show in galleries pretty consistently because people thought that they were like a degradation of art.
Oh.
So it's kind of the Impressionist movement where they were like, well, we let loose a little bit here and we allowed things in we wouldn't have usually allowed in. But now the next generation is going really crazy with it. They're getting like very abstract with it. And so they didn't want them showing in the same spaces as works like these. So this is on the left, Adolf Menzel, and on the right, Max Liebermann. These are
Adolf Menzel is my favorite Adolf. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
I like Adolf Menzel. Hitler, not so much. Menzel was a cool guy.
I mean,
Look at him. He just drew ladies wearing the same fucking shit. That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's
Handmaid's Tale looks like.
it does look a little bit like the Handmaid's Tale. It's called Free Period in the Amsterdam Orphanage.
Would you be mad, can I ask you, as a lady, would you be mad if you went out, you bought a nice dress and you went out and fucking 50 other women were wearing that exact same? You're like, I was trying to be different.
Well, I gotta say, it says orphanage, so I think these girls are dressed that way for a reason.
Yeah, it looks
Someone
like
didn't
they're-
want them.
Oh,
You know?
okay.
These are the outcasts.
This is
These
the
are-
clothes for, hey, you don't want this girl.
Yeah, these are the leftover girls.
If
that
you see
no
a
one
girl in a
wanted.
blue and red dress, you don't want her.
Leftover.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why the Handmaid's Tale aspect is there. That actually is a pretty cool painting with the light coming in.
Oh,
and
it's
stuff.
beautiful. I like especially like it captures the glimmer on the brick very well.
Yeah.
Like how the light comes through the trees. That's, really well done.
Yeah, so these are pretty great paintings, and you'll see coming from these why these artists push back against the Expressionists because they, thought that this was the tier in which we should judge all art by, So, and then labor, like I talked about, the iron workers there in that one. So
It reminds me like how I like to compare the two. It's like these are like musicians that learned like the guitar. They learned how to play it perfectly and they can play a great solo and great notes. And then Expressionism is kind of like punk rock,
Yes.
where it's not the tone, they're screaming, it's out of tone. Not every note is played right. And they're like, that's not music. You're just yelling.
Yes.
And that's what that's why I love Expressionism. It's like, it's not perfect, but it's like, they're just showing how they really feel. Where this is, this picture takes you back to that time.
Yeah.
Where Expressionism, you kind of have to allow your own brain to go like, what was real, what's fake. And I love that about art.
It also shows more, to me, Expressionism is a more overt showing of what's going on inside the artist's mind and emotions, to where this is almost like you're reading a poem and you're trying to interpret what's going on inside the artist's mind.
Yeah.
So it's a little more obvious in the Expressionist. What are they feeling? What are they thinking about, the social movement they're trying to make a point about or something like this, to where this, like the ironworkers, you get it. You're like, okay, the conditions are kind of not great. It's dark. These people are probably overworked, but it's
one
not
guy's barefoot.
Oh, the factory?
Yeah, dude, this is crazy.
So that's what I mean about how it's kind of more like a riddle. Like you had to pick out that guy's barefoot, right? You had to look in that little area and find that. It's not as obvious.
Bro, and imagine anytime I feel bad, like having to go to work, we should just look at that picture and be like, dude, they went to work and they probably got a loaf of bread, maybe a glass of milk after their shift.
Yeah, and a lung full of dust and crap and metal, smoke. These guys look horrible.
Yeah, you die at 32. Yeah, you guys are already dead, actually, now since I think about it in that picture, in that
What
painting.
kind of factory is that?
That is the iron rolling mill. So they're rolling iron out.
Beautiful.
Jesus.
Yeah, in that one, which, again, toxic.
Yeah, horrible.
For sure toxic. So this showed a lot of the chaotic working class life, but it did it in a way that was a little bit more like pristine than what we're going to move into in the Expressionism.
That's why I also love art, though, is because art is for like rich, pretentious people. And it's just a picture of, poor people working in a factory. And so like, wow, look at the people working in the factory. It's so hardcore and so oh, should we give them more money? No. Because then how can we draw the pictures of them working so hard?
How could we afford the paintings of them if we
I
up
like
their
that
wages?
they're skinny and the food deprived. I like that about the art.
Yeah. So
all the paint back then, was like toxic too. Like even on the paintings.
fun fact, even paint today is toxic. I actually went through my paints the other day and got rid of all my cadmiums, but then I'm like, I have no way to that's the only paint that looks that color. Cadmium is a specific mineral that's like real poisonous.
Oh,
It's like it gets you this really strong orange and red. If you're trying to paint fire or something, it really is like a great color to use, but I guess use it sparingly would be my advice. But so this also is going to be like our first difference in between the two. So as I talked about, you're moving more into this new style, and you can see Dora Hits on the right. Also, if I pronounce names wrong, you guys got to correct me because I'm fucking terrible at that.
Come on.
So
that's more Tony's field.
Yeah, Tony, you let me know. So this is going to be more impressionist still from her, and she's one of the people with one of the previous guys, Lieberman, who pushed to not let them show their work in galleries. So she's part of the old school, I guess I would call it, even though that's not technically true. And then Max Pechstein. He's one of the new school expressionist painters. So you can see how it's even less realistic. Yeah. It's almost more like caricature looking. And so they're like, this is not fine art. That's where they're going to draw the line.
To be fair, too, because my niece, she's a good artist. And I've seen her draw that picture, and it's like, I don't know. I think it's just fun. I think that's what it comes down to, too, is like, I don't think that is as skilled as the previous two paintings we just looked at, but it does also give me the emotion of what this guy's seeing when he looks out into that field with those barns and cows. Yeah. He has like a good feeling about it, right? Also,
and it shows.
I hate guidelines on art that's why I hate like awards for art. Because like Oscars, you're like, this movie is the best movie. And it's like,
says who? It's subjective.
Yeah. Where it's like, that's why art is so beautiful, is because it doesn't matter what skill level you are at. It allows you to express yourself and just let out those emotions. And if that's what he felt about spring in Germany, fucking let him express it.
Yeah. Get your Crayola box out and go to town.
I also think if someone likes it, and they're willing to buy it, then it's fine. I like different varieties of art. So I like very realistic stuff, and I also like completely non-objective stuff. So I get it. You know, this is called the Berlin Succession Conflict, which was the actual conflict of them not allowing these new artists to come into their galleries and show. So they're saying this is where we draw the line in art, which Justin was here last week where I was saying where I draw the line in art is AI. You know, that's where I draw the line. But some people disagree with me on that. They would allow AI to be considered fine art, you know.
So during the Berlin session, this fight, were they throwing like paint at each other? And
no, but I wish.
Were they like getting dirty?
I feel like Germans
breaking
don't.
each other's paintbrushes?
I feel like
You're
Germans,
not an artist.
Yeah, I think they yell at each other. I feel like they don't fight that way.
You bring shame to your family.
I don't know. I feel like if you're an artist and you've I don't know. I don't even know if this is true, but I've heard Picasso, like, he could paint really high level intricate things.
Yes.
And then he changed his style. Like, that's like, okay, I respect that. But if this like Max Pechstein guy, just like that's all he could do, you're like, all right, well,
you actually make a really good point.
Not like good then.
Yeah, you make a really good point, and it's a point that I've made before, and a million other people have too. Is you have to know the rules to break the rules.
Yeah.
And Picasso is a perfect example. If you look at his work from when he's like a teenager to a young man, very, very skilled artist.
Yeah.
Then he goes abstract.
Yeah.
So it's like figure out how to do it, get the basics down, get really, really good at that, and then express yourself after that.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
show the world that you can do all different styles, like high level, and then you go crazy.
Yeah. No one can say you're not capable.
Yeah, and that's what, like, I don't know, that guy, that what's his face, he died, 27 Club.
Artist, musician, who?
God, yeah, you know, he was an artist. He was
Basquiat.
Yeah, where his is like,
Say it.
you're
Can you
like,
pronounce
I
it for
don't
me,
know.
please, CJ? I would like to hear.
Basquiat.
Yeah.
Basquiat.
Actually, it might be
That was
better than
good.
I did it. Yeah.
Anyway,
Basquiat.
he's the guy. I watched his movie, and you're like, you know, he was like strung out on drugs. He's just like fucking just throwing paint at it and shit. And you're like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know where the skill level is here, though. You know, again, if he was able to like paint like super realistic looking things, and then he was like, I just hate doing that, and then started splashing paint on a thing, that's one thing. But just not like he'd never showcased his skill of like, I could do something really intricate.
I think you're looking for the term industry plant.
Yeah.
Because that's what that is, right? When someone sees someone and they go, okay, this is an opportunity for me to promote this person's work and make money off of them.
Yeah.
Just what a lot of gallerists will do.
That was the same
That's
with
what
like
Andy
Jackson
Warhol did.
Pollock, right?
Yeah, Jackson Pollock is actually the CIA were the ones who did that, but they did it through a gallery system.
Because he's like a fraud. Because literally he would, same thing, just throw splatter. And then, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger bought a painting for like millions of dollars. And he's like, look at this idiot. Like he's blatantly said, like, look at these idiots.
That's funny. He's a CIA front. Basquiat might be as well. I mean, honestly, if we're being honest, they probably both are. But it's kind of like an industry plant thing where it's like, and it also depends on like, are other people in your own community as an artist, do they respect your work because they've seen that you have the skill to be able to be doing this? You know, compared to Keith Haring, who's a contemporary of Basquiat, can't say his fucking name either, who people do have a lot of respect for. I'm not going to show you. I mean, unless you can pull up Keith Haring to give an example, because he's like a doodle street artist.
Yeah.
But he actually has this unique skill set, and people very much do respect him as an artist. With saying that, I can't stand his work.
Oh, wow. This guy's great.
I hate it. But people love it. It's just not for me.
I remember in elementary school in Germany, we took an art class and I recreated his work. I loved his work.
Yeah, he's very, very popular. But he's a contemporary of the guy you were talking about. So they're working in the same region, but one has the respect of the art community at the time, you know, and the other one not so much. And again, this is all subjective, so people may argue with me.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's just weird. I don't know. I try to understand it because I try to. They romanticize Basquiat so much, where it's like they had a movie about him and they're like, oh, he was just so misunderstood, and you're like, I don't know, it's just like the whole movie's like on crack. I think I understand
it is
this.
hard to understand. Someone on It's
He's
real
like,
hard to understand.
You're like, okay, yeah, I know, I get it.
That's the thing. He's dead, right? He died.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
died
That's
a
the
long
thing
time
about
ago,
every
yeah.
artist, though. They always go, if they were a piece of shit, they just go, he was just misunderstood.
I know.
That's why he hit 3 of his wives. He was just misunderstood.
So romanticized.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
I will say in his defense again, I think that he was a bit of an industry plant, and there probably is a lot of psychological damage that's done to you when you want to be respected in this way and you're not. You're viewed as like a fraud in this other way. And then also people are profiting off you, and the way they could profit the most off of you is if you're dead.
Dude, it's kind of like
So,
comics. It's kind of like in comedy.
know.
You could, but if you're not like respected by your peers, you've met those comics that kill on the road, but they're just a little weird and they're not respected.
Or people who become super famous and other comics don't respect them. That's worse because now they're famous and they don't have the respect of their peers.
Oh, it kills them.
Yeah, it's a very dark place to be in, you know?
I'm glad I had that painting in my college dorm.
These are
The
great.
Ludwig?
The Max Beckman one, the one in the middle.
Nah,
The
yeah,
Max
that's a
Beckman
nice
one?
Uh-huh.
These are all great. The Kirshner ones are great. The Beckman ones are great. So yeah, and I also loved, so Beckman, that's a later work slightly on the right, the self-portrait with the cigarette, but I love that one.
Yeah.
It's like he's glaring at, he's kind of got like a grimace on his face. These are fantastic. So these are like, again, before World War I, there's this vibrant German street scenes that are going on because it's the revolution of industrialization. People are coming into money, but also there's laborers that are working really hard. The whole world's changing very, very quickly.
The middle class was rising as well.
Yes, absolutely. And technology is changing really quickly. So all of this combined, you get these paintings that are like vibrant, but also there's like a dark side to them. I think they're fabulous. I really like that one in the upper right, which is a Kirshner one.
Yeah.
But it's like the perspective is almost a fisheye lens of this weird city that it's like toxic yellow in a weird way. I don't know. I love that one. So I just
Well,
wanted
it's like,
to
the
include that.
street lights, it's nighttime, so it's the street lights just make the whole city yellow.
Mm-hmm.
It gives it, it's cool.
Yeah. These are so cool. So wait, you had a print of the triptych in the middle in your room?
Yeah. I just loved it because I love horror movies, and it just reminded me like the guy on the very left kind of looks like Frankenstein.
Yes.
You're like, oh, Frankenstein's just at this party. He's like, this is my opinion on social wealth distribution, actually. It's like, okay, Frankenstein. It's just like you have a lot going on. It just reminded me of like a cool, like when you go to a college party and it's in someone's living room and everybody's just hanging out, and
you know what it reminded me of? Is
there's an awkward kid just reading in the corner.
It reminded me of a David Lynch movie because everyone's in their own little like world, and then there's weird characters going on.
Yeah.
In it. So that's what like that guy in the middle just with a crown and a cape for no reason. Like, like the whole thing is just kind of surreal in a really unique way. So yeah, I loved these
and
artists.
He's stabbing himself. It looks like he has a dagger and he's stabbing himself.
Yeah, like they're putting on a play or something in the middle of it.
See.
So it's probably what it is I don't know why I didn't put the name of this one, but it's probably like scenes of a play.
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And on the one on the left, that's been like an acid trip going to a party.
Yeah, that's what it.
You take some acid and you show up to a party and like, whoa, okay.
Everyone's faces are getting angular.
Yeah, the world's kind of like moving. Like, what's up, ladies?
Yeah. So these, I just wanted to show these ones as an example. Because the other thing is like the street scenes, like the one you were saying on the left.
Yeah.
Is it both has a theme of this connectivity of individuals talking to one another, but also a disconnection of like the world's getting so big and industrial that we're all slightly disconnected from each other in a weird way. So that's kind of what I got from that one. But yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, the guy on the right is cool too.
I love him.
Because that's what it is. It seems like a industrial, aristocratic kind of on the left is like, everyone's
definitely acid trippy with the paint.
But that's always, I feel like when the world gets too industrial, I feel like that's when the freaks come out in art. Because you think about in the 90s, we were very, like the Reagan era, end of the 80s was very, and that's when you got kind of like the indie filmmakers, like the Kevin Smiths, Robert Rodriguez's. You got like these guys going like, we're going to just tell a story in a convenience store, and it's going to be, the dialogue's not going to be as clean, and it's not going to be, so that's why I love this kind of art. It's always like kind of like the pushback of like, we're trying to become more serious.
I also think for these ones, this grouping in particular, because some of these are pre-World War One, the ability to be creative is at the pinnacle when you're not at wartime and when the middle class is rising, because you have the excess wealth to be creative and to not be worried about surviving.
Yeah.
You know, surviving food, surviving war, surviving whatever this famine, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So these all kind of give that vibe of like right before the war, sort of. So I thought that too, because we'll get into wartime ones. And some of these artists who are very bright and vibrant will become very dark.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is Die Brücke. Did I say that right, Tony?
Die Brücke.
Die Brücke. Wasn't even close.
At the bridge.
The bridge. Yeah. So this is a group of these guys: Kirchner, Heckel, Schmidt, Rotloff,
Fritz Blell, Kirchner, Heckel, Schmidt, Rotloff.
Oh, I love it. I should just make you do all the names. Okay, so this guy in the right with the monocle, self-portrait with the monocle. As soon as I saw it, I was like, take a look. It's in a book reading Rainbow.
I'm on some acid.
Does this not look like real 90s?
Yeah.
Like, think about how progressive
so true.
and
It's
modern.
Crazy. It's like Eddie Murphy.
It really is. I forgot the guy's name from Reading Rainbow, but for some reason it just reminded me of that, where it's got this really like almost more contemporary feel to it. And what year is that? That's 1910. That painting is from.
That's so cool.
So this just shows how art's kind of like cyclical, like stuff that you might think you would see in the 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
Like they're
And they
shooting
got
all
MF
the way
Doom
back.
in the middle right there. Look at this guy.
Oh, that was a good one to point out, because I actually wanted to show the difference in between the different mediums of printmaking and painting, because those three on the right are all the same artist. So look at how vastly different that woodcut in the middle, that print is, versus his painting on the far right. Like stylistically, because the medium is rigid and you're carving and then printing what you carved, it creates a whole different feel. You wouldn't even think that's the same artist, you know? So
the one in the middle is so cool.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
good.
woodcuts, and that one's really, really cool.
What do you, CJ, when you see the one in the middle, what do you see? Because that's that's the one thing I love about Expressionism is it allows you to
I don't know. It's very religious feeling.
Yeah.
Priesty. You know, also, yeah, it's like priest, maybe godly, religious something. And then like the other guys, looks like they're about to kiss, but I don't know what that, I don't know why.
I know the title of this one. Do you want me to give it away for you guys?
Yeah.
It's Jesus and Judah.
Oh, wow.
See?
Yep.
See?
So that's the title of that one.
So because when I saw it, my first thought was like, the guy went to heaven and he's like laying himself to rest, going like, it's okay, we're in heaven. But that's cool, Jesus and Judah.
It kind of is the same energy, though.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's
all
okay
right.
that you're about to do this. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So this is what, I mean, I found some things calling this the first wave, this group, the bridge. And they were very scandalous at the time because raw, crude woodcuts, erotic drawings also, which was like this was the beginning of that being socially acceptable.
Nice.
Previously, when you saw nudity.
So wait, the one on the one all the way to the other one all the way to the left, that's an exotic or erotic drawing?
I mean, well, she's wearing clothes, but
but that's the softcore talking.
She might be a lady. Yeah,
getting there. She's tired.
She could be a lady of the night as well. You know,
She's laying it down.
That was easy. That's you after bombing at the mothership. That's us after bombing at the mothership, just going like, it's over.
Your career is.
Yeah, we're done.
Why did I say that at the end?
I mean, before this time period, though, erotic art would have been shown. It would have been more like mythology. Like you would have shown it in that way, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe like if it was a woman and she was wanting to present a certain look, especially
a lot of fountains.
A lot of fountains, especially if it was going to be behind closed doors in someone's private collection. You might have like more nudity. But this was like you know, things going on. Also, some of these guys were involved in like free love movements where they were having orgies and things like that. So this is very, very progressive. This is essentially like where the 1960s got it from, I guess I would say, was these guys. They kind of started it. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they became a group because when they moved to Berlin, they struggled.
They struggled in showing their art in general because, again, a lot of galleries were on that other side where they were saying, we don't really want to allow this type of art in here, you know? And so then it's like, okay, well, we're just going to do our own thing then. If we
start a
can't
coalition.
be in yours, we're going to start our own group. We're going to have exhibits with just our
Also,
type of art.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's why I tell people. That's why I tell people it's just like, just do what you want to do. Join your group. Find your people.
Yeah. People are too obsessed with being included in whatever it is they think. So
the Jesus Judas guy did the nudity thing.
Yeah, these guys were all into that sort of stuff.
Wow. See, that's what I'm saying. They look like they're kind of gonna kiss.
You think this was the beginning of the LGBT movement?
Yeah,
it honestly could have.
What if Jesus and Judas kissed?
I don't.
What if Jesus looked at him and said, "It's okay, Judas. I still love you."
I don't think these guys.
Hey,
were
Judas, one last before they put me on the cross.
Oh no!
Come on, Judas. Give me that betrayal. Come on.
Oh no!
Jesus Christ!
I was trying to say these guys are progressive.
That's my name.
Tony really runs with a bit when you give it to him. He just takes it.
The betrayal. That's funny. Come on. Have you ever had betrayal? No, I haven't. Probably would be great.
Yeah, I haven't either. That sounds terrible.
Betrayal.
What are you talking about? That sounds awful, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought we were gonna look at nudity now. I thought we were leading up to the.
All right,
I wanted to see some of the.
I thought we were taking a turn.
Oh, betrayal is too far. You want to get hard in the live podcast?
I don't know. I wanted to see how far they went.
Well, sometimes you wanted like this to be a sequence of Jesus and Judas.
I wanted to see what couldn't get in.
So there's more of these, right? We've got more. No, now we're on to psychological themes, emotional themes, because as we talked about, expressionism is that it's more overt, right? What do you guys think of the Scream? Everyone knows that painting, right?
That's Picasso, no?
No.
What? Stop.
Edvard Munch. Munch.
Okay, but Picasso never did a Scream?
No.
That's
I mean,
fucking me
Picasso
up.
had people screaming in paintings, but not the Scream.
Oh, that's crazy to me.
Well,
I love
if there's one thing you left with today, CJ.
I don't know how I didn't know that. I thought for sure he did the Scream.
No.
I
That's
love
not Picasso.
I love the Scream.
You love the Scream.
I love it.
I was never a big Scream person, but now since I'm looking at it, I don't know why. I think maybe because they made it like kitschy. They put it into too many pop culture things.
Probably.
And then it made it not as like grand in my mind or something.
That is fair because I do love it because it was in Looney Tunes Back in Action.
This maybe is the reason why I didn't love it.
I love it. And it comes to life.
Was it the first time anyone's ever screamed in a painting? Is that what?
No, definitely not. Okay. Not at all. But it was because it's so non-representational in the sense that like, it's not a person that you can identify. It's not like a place alien that you can identify. Right. It's this completely imagined thing where the actual focal point of the painting is the emotion, not who's doing it, where it's at, all those other things, right? It's the psychology of it is the focal point.
Yeah.
So that's maybe what sets expressionists apart from everyone else in like the highest level is what you're supposed to be focusing and getting out of it. Yeah.
All these pictures just seem like bad acid trips.
A lot of them do. Yeah. Some of them seem like fun acid trips, but a lot of them seem like bad acid trips.
Like the one on the left, that's just scary.
I love that one. That's my favorite out of the group of them, actually.
That's like a group of 3 and 2 are like really close friends. And the guy in the back is just like, come on, guys. I'm over here.
Yeah, he looks angry in the back.
Yeah, he's like going to betray him.
You motherfuckers.
He's mad he's not getting the betrayal.
Oh, yeah.
What's happening here?
That's Judas's brother, Kevin.
Oh my God.
Judas.
Where's my that's the voice I think. Like,
Why does he get a Jesus, not me?
fucking Jack.
I think what I love so much about that painting is that the shadows in it are all the wrong colors.
Oh.
Like the shadows don't make sense.
Yeah.
They're not, that is not the color that would be shown in that shadow. And it reminds me of something they did. It got really big in like the 2010s, was that thing in movies where they would cross light like pink on one side and blue on the other. That became like Moonlight did that, right? And then people got over it really quickly. But this is doing that, but inside of your own mind, right? It's like all the wrong shadow colors, all the wrong highlight colors. I love that one. So a lot of the influence for these sort of things was because Sigmund Freud had published in the 1890s all of his works on what he thought was going on psychologically between people in like their early childhood development. And that kind of took the world by a storm because it was a whole different idea of psychology than anyone had ever had before. And so then people really started getting introspective about that and being like, well, what's causing me to be the way that I am, or, you know, have the thoughts that I do. And so then this is how it translates into art, I guess I would say. So that's why it's like nightmare, distorted dreams, all that sort of stuff.
The guy in the middle looks miserable.
That's the prophet.
Yeah, that's the prophet from Emile Knoll.
So it's like that's like Jesus.
I would think that's a Jesus one, but without Judas.
If we made that like the typical Jesus, I don't think anybody would go to church.
Yeah, it's very scary.
That's just like not a guy you want to hang out with.
It looks
That's why we have clean cut Jesus, where he's like ripped and he's just like he's like that guy. I would
This
not.
is like.
Did you guys see that they cast
Geico
the girl from Wicked to play Jesus in the
Which girl?
the girl who plays
Elzeba?
Yeah, Elzeba.
She's playing Jesus Christ?
She's playing Jesus Christ in the live Jesus Christ Superstar at the Hollywood Bowl.
Wait, who's
that's actually kind of cool.
I said it was kind of cool too. People are mad about it. And I was like, look, if you're like into Jesus, that kind of is like in the spirit of Jesus. Like my body doesn't, what I look like is irrelevant to my story and my purpose.
Also, have you seen Jesus Christ Superstar?
No, why would I watch that?
It's great. Jesus Christ Superstar is great.
Is it? Well, she's going to be in it. And she does have a very good voice. So she'll probably be good.
Yeah, Jesus Christ Superstar is like a rock anthem about like the biblical time.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
It's very cool.
Okay, so she's playing that, and I
thought she was just playing Jesus and like a
no.
But Jesus Christ that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think like haven't they always done like gender swapping in plays? Like didn't Shakespeare always have women played by men? So it's kind of like not that weird when you think about it that they cast her as that.
It doesn't matter.
Also, Peter Pan, they always have a woman play Peter Pan in theater stuff. Always.
It doesn't matter.
Because he has to fit in the little leotards.
He has to be a little boy.
Little boy. So I don't think it's that weird, but I did want to point that out, that that's going to be the new Jesus Christ
Is she going to look like that?
I hope they paint her green.
That would be cool. A green Jesus?
Green Jesus.
Dear green Jesus.
That'll really piss off the Christians.
I know.
Yeah.
He wasn't green.
He was white just like me. Yeah, they hate when he's a little tan.
I know.
Imagine
they can't
green.
stand it. They don't understand at all.
Wait, they get mad when he's tan?
Yeah, when he's like brown, when they kind of brown him up a little. Because of course he would be brown.
He was in the freaking desert.
Yeah, but they're like, no, he lived in New York City like me.
I know. I think they'll take light Italian at the darkest. Like that's as dark as they're willing to go.
Well, yeah. And they're still kind of mad.
Yeah, they're still a little mad about why is his hair so curly?
Yeah.
Like,
he had blonde hair like my daughter.
Yeah, I never got that. What else about this one?
I loved the middle one. That's so bleak. I love it.
You love the middle one best?
Yeah, because it's scary. It's freaky. It's
like
dark.
the Geico caveman to me.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Well, okay.
That's if you don't save 15% on car insurance. You're like, fuck.
That's very caveman-y.
I mean, if you were getting nailed to a cross, that probably is the face you'd make.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know?
Very sad.
You'd be like, come on, really? Like, there isn't another way we could do this.
You're a Nepo baby, and you told your dad, I'm going to go to Earth, and I'm going to fix it. And then you realized you failed.
You just made him gay.
I'm going to fix it, Dad. I know you're God. But I'm going to go down there and show him.
So,
Whoa.
the favorite of all hipster art girls, Egon Schiele. Here's the thing. Kurt says Egon Schiele. I grew up with a girl who had that last name. She went by Sheely, so I don't know which way you're supposed to say it.
It's Shiel.
Sheely? Okay.
You
Sheely.
don't put the E at the end, yeah.
You don't?
No, you don't put the E
Okay,
at
so
the
this
end.
girl pronounced her name wrong, lady. But that's okay. It's Florida. Everyone pronounces things wrong.
Also,
So
it's probably, coming to America. We were talking about how people change their name.
absolutely.
So that's,
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah. So this guy is a really fantastic artist. I feel like everyone from like the 2000s to 2010s that was like a hipster girl had this in her bedroom.
Yeah.
Some version of this. But he is truly a great artist.
Yeah, this is crazy.
He also has a really bad historical reputation, and there's some debate about this.
Kanye.
She just whispers Kanye. We're looking at you.
No, but I thought it was nice. He gave himself a very modest.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very honest in that painting.
That's true. Because I feel like nowadays with Photoshop, people would like make it
come
huge.
on. You're
It's
drawing it yourself?
Yeah.
We're gonna go a couple in.
You go in Photoshop. Let's add a few inches. Come on.
Give it a couple.
Well, I think he's honest in all of his images in the sense that he'll show himself or whoever he's drawing in kind of like a grotesque way, which is obviously mixing the psychological with it. I'm sure they don't look this grotesque in real life. This bony, this, exaggerated. But he's showing multiple things in that.
And what's the guy? It's like a burn victim deal.
These guys? No. This is just his style. And he's doing
Okay.
weird painterly line work. Instead of blending the paint colors together, he's like doing just singular strokes of colors to kind of give it that look. But I do love that you said, is that a burn?
She's dressed so modernly, though. Isn't that kind of weird? Like,
That
she's
is weird.
dressed very modernly. Like, she
Kinda
has like
looks-
a tank top on. It's like they had tank tops in 1917.
Maybe
Probably.
that's
You know what I mean? She had like leggings. It's like kind of wild looking.
maybe that's
That was the first hipster.
but maybe that's someone copying Egon.
Right?
Maybe when
No.
I searched it, someone is copying him. So if that's true, I'll put in an actual Egon image over it. If
No,
this
it
is not
says
an accurate
seated
one.
woman with bent knee, 1917. That's
Yeah.
him.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
but you are right that it does look like 90s.
Yeah, it's like she got Reeboks on and like
It looks like what's that store? Urban Outfitters.
Yeah.
It's very Urban
yeah,
Outfitters.
it's crazy. I mean, if he really painted that, I mean, that's
Maybe
like
they were
crazy
like the first
visionary.
punk kind of if you look at it, because the guys too, they're wearing kind of like the leathery jacket. Maybe it was.
I mean, yeah, I will say also the guys are kind of dressed in a way that like those are his paintings from that time,
Also, if
From,
this
like,
is
the
Berlin,
1910s.
if this is like Berlin,
They're weird sex addicts anyways. Agreed.
no, and they're just like weird kind of. They were always out there. If you look like the history of
They
Berlin,
dressed out there, yeah.
they
Yeah.
always had like they would cut clothes, and that's why Berlin. There's the EDM scene and the goth
Right.
scene started
The
out
Molly.
Yeah.
because they would just rip everything and
I thought that was the police coming to arrest us for talking about Egon Schiele. I do love this artist. I know he has like a bad reputation, but I think his work is really, really cool. And I don't think you have to separate the art from the artist. And my reason why is because you wouldn't have great art like this if it wasn't for people being fucked up.
yeah,
So
yes, yeah,
just
I agree.
take everything as it is and enjoy what you can out of it. That's all I have to say about
That's
that.
tough that you're confiscated drawings because they were pornographic. That's
Yeah.
You couldn't even draw your own back then. That's
Well,
fucked up.
You could, but you
Couldn't
couldn't
sell it.
you couldn't put it on display like it's fine art.
Oh,
That's like that's kind of a black market sort of thing.
I see.
Graphic art's been around forever, but it's like how it's distributed and how it's displayed is what's the problem. If you're putting this up in a cafe with children
Yes.
in a time where they're like, what the fuck? That's your dick. Like, you
Yeah.
can't just do that.
We still have it today when like movies or something get released and they're like, oh, it has this kind of scene. They try
Yeah.
to boycott movies. or-
Ban books.
Ban
They still
books.
ban books
Drag
from libraries of
shows, they
certain
do it
things.
all.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's just people that, yeah.
Well, I think that's the real argument of this, right? Is like there's a time and a place where everything is appropriate, but there's different, like there's certain things I don't want to see just out in the world, like your dick. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't want to
Yes.
see that walking
No.
down the street,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not saying I agree with the judge in this case, but maybe mean, what was he doing? Was he running up to small children and being like, look at it?
Yeah, that's
You know?
yeah, that's interesting. Ooh.
Yeah. So now we're on to second wave. So now this to me is when it's getting a little bit more commercialized. So when you think about, I probably should have included a couple of Kandinskys in here because Kandinsky is like a really big name, which is that bottom right one there. You'll see this all over the place. I mean, it's very acceptable now. At the time, it was crazy that people were making art like this. But nowadays, it's like this is passé. It's whatever. But
what do you see in the left one? I see a fox.
I actually think I see two foxes.
Where do you see the second one?
I thought there was a second.
Oh, right there. Oh my God.
Am I
you're
imagining
right.
that?
No, I see it too.
Yeah. I think
it's right. There's the leg, and then there's one like peeking under it.
Yeah.
That's
Which
cool.
Franz Marc is an interesting one because at the time I feel like he was very cutting edge and like no one was making art like this. But now I feel like this is like every art school assignment when you're in like drawing one is to do this. And to me, it's like not interesting at all. But at the time, I bet that was revolutionary. If you went into a gallery and you saw that, think back to those first two paintings that we looked at. You're used to seeing that in an art gallery. And then you walk in and you see that fox and you're like, what is this?
Well, it's kind of these three together. Like the two on the left and right makes sense. In the middle, you're like, all right.
if you can't hear that on the mic, he said it's Stewie's real mom. And it is. It really is.
Very Stewie in the eyes.
Yeah. So what's that? That's the only female artist. CJ's hating on her, but
her name is Gabrielle Minta. So nice. They named it twice.
I'm not saying it's bad.
That could be my auto. That I could have done that wrong.
No, I'm gonna from now on Gabrielle Minta.
I have a lot of errors when I put these together, so a lot of times things are not spelled right.
No, I'm not saying she's bad. It's just with the left and right, it's like too drastically different.
And you asked earlier about Picasso, and I think this shows the progression into Picasso, right? You can see how you're coming from this painting in the middle to these two paintings on either side, and then into what we now picture is like Picasso, which is old now. I mean, that's over 100 years old, that style of art. But yeah, Kandinsky is the one to me that looks the most like a crazy acid trip. That's like when you throw up on acid.
Yeah.
Like that's
just like your brain. That's his brain just
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that he intertwined working with music a lot while painting his compositions. Yeah, so it's like the energy of music.
Yeah, he has a lot of music notes in there. It's like keyboard.
Yeah, that's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Those are the paintings I love the best. The one on the right where you can just stare at it for like 20 minutes and just you have to go like section by section.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, maybe these relate, maybe this relate. Those are my favorite.
I feel like this is the scene in Mallrats where they're staring at trying to see the sailboat.
Yeah.
Like it's a sailboat.
Yeah. But those are like when I go to museums and stuff, I like to get high and find these kind of pictures.
Yeah.
Where you can just stare at it and then go, what do you see? And then your buddy picks something out and then you pick something out. And then you're like, oh, I thought that was that. Like that to me is the best.
Air balloon.
Yeah. I also think that I agree with you because I also think that like when you're going to go abstract like this, it needs to compensate in a different way, right? To make it not be boring and like you kind of mentioned earlier, almost lazy. Like, is that all you're capable of doing? So Kandinsky is one of those ones where it's like, it draws a couple of lines where it's like the capability is really, really high. And also the intrigue is really high when you're looking at it, you know?
Because I hate abstract art that when it's like a ball and a chair, they're like, this is art. And I'm like, you're not really telling a story.
Yeah.
Or not modern art, is it then?
Contemporary.
Contemporary.
Yeah,
that
and
kind of stuff.
contemporary covers everything, by the way. So it's more like here's a bunch of different versions of contemporary art that fit what you're saying, where it's like it kind of is like we talked about this on the last episode, where it's like art is whatever you can get away with.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like you're just getting away with stuff. Like at this point, you're really not trying. And maybe the thought in your head was that it was revolutionary in this way or that, and it made you think, but it's like Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just like, that's just a pile of sand. And I know that sand is tiny little pieces and it's all here gathered together and there's some sort of deep meaning to this, but it is just a pile of sand. So.
Yeah. Me and my mom, we got kicked out of a viewing at the museum in Dublin because we went to the museum and they're like, well, we have this videotape from this famed abstract artist, da-da-da. They had a viewing of it.
Okay.
And we sit in it, and it's just one shot, and it's just mattress falls. Chair falls. And I lean over, I'm like, I guess next is a couch. Couch falls. My mom starts dying laughing. And it's like 100 people are in this thing.
Everyone's like.
And then my mom starts guessing, and she's like, I think it's this. And I'm like, you're fucking wrong. And we were just guessing and just making each other die laughing. We had wine before, and we were just hammered laughing. And they literally, one of the museum directors came up to us, and they're like, you can go. And we're like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
But we were just dying laughing. And that's the kind of art I thought it was, because it was just bull.
Yes. And that's the catch of contemporary art, because you'll have really great artists displayed right next to something where you're like, come on.
Some rich kid that just,
And because they're all brainwashed into believing that it's this really high art form, they all like circle each other into being like, that was fabulous. That was so deep. It moved me. And I think that this is not the next big thing, you know, and it's like some of it is like, Jesus Christ.
Also, my thing is like, to get kicked out for laughing, if that's what it made us feel, like, why are you judging
That's right.
us?
Take it.
No, honestly, that's how I feel. Like, that's why, like, when I see a movie or something, and you know, it's someone laughs at a scene where I don't laugh at, I'm like, oh, if you felt that way, cool.
Yeah.
That's how it's react how you're supposed to, like, react how you feel. Don't like have this, oh, it's uber serious.
Yeah, if you're having to suppress your own feelings about something, then the art sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for real.
You should, whatever you're feeling is fine. And like the same thing, if I feel that like, okay, a 7-year-old could do that, that's okay that I feel that, you know? And I'm okay to have an opinion on that also. That is interesting they kicked you guys out of it.
It's so funny.
I think you may have been drunker than you realized.
We were pretty drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to the Guinness Museum and then had wine, and we were pretty
Okay, the Guinness Museum first is you should have led with that.
It was great.
We started at this other museum.
We laughed about it for like 2 days straight.
It is funny. I went. What year was that? I can't remember what year it was. I went to the Whitney Biennial, and there was this artist there who, it was like when VR headsets were like new tech.
Yeah.
And you would go and you had to wait in this huge line to get into it. So I'm like, oh, it's got to be good, right? So you wait in line to get into it. You put on a VR headset and it's your POV of like beating the shit out of someone.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then it just like abruptly stops and there's like a tree, or maybe there were like fake trees in the room when you take the headset off. And I just remember being like, if I wanted that, I would have played Grand Theft Auto. And like, I'm not saying Grand Theft Auto isn't art. It is. It's just not fine art. Like, what the fuck is this doing in a museum?
That's kind of
I'm not saying it's not valuable to some sense, but it's not valuable in the same sense that Kandinsky.
I kind of love that, though. I would have loved that.
Is valuable.
Have you ever seen Maniac? It's a French, Elijah Wood made a French remake, but it's like a horror movie about Elijah Wood. He's crazy.
I think I do know what you're talking about.
Kills these women, but the whole movie's from his perspective.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking scary because you're just like,
well, but see, as a movie, I would think that's cool.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I would also, why I didn't include film in this, although they are it's art, it is art, and they're very deeply intertwined. It's also its own medium.
That's
completely.
True. Yep.
So it's like, I think that's where I separate those two things, where it's like, I remember leaving the gallery and being like, man, there was a lot of really cool art in there. And then that one thing that was like, why is this here?
Yeah.
like why?
To sell
Who was
tickets.
the guy?
Yeah.
Was it just like a realistic looking person, or?
I can't
Faceless
remember.
person?
I think they actually like filmed a real person, but obviously it was like fake with fake blood, but it looked quite real. And I remember it was like, this is like when you see a comic go up and they say something crazy racist, and it's not funny, but the audience laughs out of nervousness because it's shock comedy.
Yeah.
It was the shock comedy of an art gallery. And I remember being like, how did the curators let this in here?
Yeah.
Like, how did they actually think to themselves, like, this is good? You know, it was kind of weird. And there are shock comics who I think are like funny and it's usually because they're relentless. It's not like they just do one joke to shock you and make you laugh.
Yeah,
The joke is that they're like Holtzman's a great example.
Holtzman's
a
The
good
joke is that they're relentless and they're just gonna like
They keep
quadruple
going.
down and
Yes.
keep beating this dead horse. You
Did
know
it
what
also
I mean?
feel pretentious when watching the thing?
Yes.
That's
People left like, that was so moving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, you've never experienced violence in your life. And I can tell by the way that you just responded to that. You fucking
That's how I feel. That's how I feel like with like Darren Aronofsky. I hate him so much.
Who is that?
He made like Mother. He made Requiem for a Dream.
When I left Mother, I just went, I don't get it. I wasn't like upset or anything. I was just like, nah.
No, but you just hear him talk, and it's just the most.
He's pretentious.
Yeah, it's just the most pretentious kind of baggery, and like to me, it's like.
You don't get to make that and be pretentious.
Yeah, that's why I like.
No.
I like artists that are shocking, but that are just normal dudes. Kind of. What's his face? He did. Gummo.
Oh, Harmony Korine.
I love Harmony Korine.
Me too.
I watched a documentary on Vice about him.
He's an artist. I'm about to do an episode on him.
He's
actually,
great.
he is a visual artist who went into film.
Yeah,
wow.
But he's just great because he makes these weird artsy movies that don't make sense. They're not lineal storytelling, and they're weird, and it's weird imagery. But he's just like, yeah, man, I don't know. I just like the visual of a kid eating spaghetti in a bathtub.
And he wants you to feel something out of it. He's not being like, oh, you didn't get it.
Yeah,
Or, I didn't mean for you to laugh at that part. Like the whole point is like, enjoy it how you enjoy it. Yeah. And I think that's how all art should be.
That's why I like these kinds, because I feel like these people are just allowing the spectator to make their own conclusion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's so. I love that one. What's the one on the right called?
The Kandinsky one?
Yeah.
Composition 7.
I'm gonna. I like that one.
1913. That's a good one.
Get a print of that for my new apartment.
There
Crazy
you go.
1913. It's wild.
So we're kind of at World War I now at this point. The lead up was filled with a bunch of paranoia, and the German youth were obviously feeling very restless and trapped, which again cues back to like the 1980s punk movement.
Yeah.
For sure. It's kind of the same feeling in the air, right? Like something big is about to happen. So most of the artists just kind of thought like whatever, the war is going to happen. Some people romanticized it, like the idea of like, well, we're going to go to war and we're going to fight. And let me tell you, World War I was not a war to romanticize. It's really fucking depressing if you look into it. Do you guys like history?
I love history.
Okay, do you
I
listen
like
to
it.
Dan Carlin's Hardcore History?
I've listened to Dan Carlin.
Yeah.
Is he great?
Fucking
He's
intense,
really
but
good.
great. If you guys want to learn about World War I, Blueprint for Armageddon, it's hours and hours, but like I want to plug
Dan
that
Carlin?
because Dan Carlin's Hardcore
Yeah,
History.
dude. He's
Yeah.
so intense.
So intense.
And he's like I don't even think he's got like a prompter or like I'm sure he has notes, but I mean for the most part he's just going off the dome.
I love
He's
that.
storytelling. He's like
wild.
I
a
love that.
storytelling, but he's so much information.
It's
That was my high
intense.
school history teacher, Sean Johnson. He's the one that got me into like history.
Yeah.
Because he would just bring up a subject and it wouldn't just be reading in the book. He would like set the scene
Oh yeah.
and you feeling and like.
Yep, Dan
and to me-
Carlin's like
yeah,
that.
to me, I love that.
You should listen to that. It's good.
Okay.
It's hours and hours, but it's like incredibly good. It'll make you be able to actually talk about World War I instead of just going, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
But it's great. The Blue Horse by Franz Marx, probably his most famous painting by him. But you can see that it's kind of like, this is still pre-war, so it's very like optimistic in some ways, right? And then this other image is also a Franz Marx, and this is going to be a post-war image. So you can see how that war affected the psyche of this man and how the art changed so dramatically from one point to the other.
What it feels like is that first picture,
crazy.
the picture on the bottom, it's like the horse warped and is now going into this like dark space
Yeah.
where it's almost like the brightness and they're like, happiness, brightness, we're going into this dark space.
Like
now.
a black hole's like
Yeah,
crushing it
sucking
into
it.
that.
Yeah, sucking it in.
Yeah. And the chaotic nature of it too is like,
Yeah, it's
to where
freaky.
the other one is just so like lollipops and
Yeah.
rainbows.
Yeah.
So pre-war versus post-war.
The horse one seems like a kid telling you his dream. I saw a horse, and there was a blue mountain and a purple mountain, and there was tree. There was like
Oh no, I just thought of what is it, Rainbow Mountain?
Yeah.
It just immediately came to my
That reminds me
head.
of Charlie the unicorn.
Charlie the unicorn.
Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. Immediately. I didn't think about that until
We
now.
love you, Charlie.
Oh
Come
God.
play with us.
Yeah, so I actually think a lot of these artists become more interesting after the war, which again, dark stuff kind of makes for better art in some ways. So some of the ones where like, I don't really love that horse painting. To me, it's too like foo-foo. But then that other painting, I'm like, okay, that's pretty sick. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like that the war happened. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's a cool painting.
Ladies
You
and gentlemen,
love war.
Jenna's here saying she's pro-war.
Look at her
Hot
face.
take.
She loves
She likes when
war.
young boys on the battlefield. Nothing gets her on more.
Oh
Seeing
God.
heads explode.
Whatever. That was a dumb war.
Jenna's out at the battlefield on Instagram. People are. Isn't this
What am
fun?
I in the So I almost did this entire episode on Kathy Holowitz because this was such a huge topic to cover, and she's one of my favorite artists from this time. So leading up to World War I, there were a lot of talks of labor uprising. So laborers, there weren't really standards of pay at this point across the board. There weren't standards of working conditions. People were dying because of it. So there were a lot of labor uprisings. And she has like whole series of work on this themes. And they're all really dark, but really beautiful. Like she's an incredible artist. So the instability of this is kind of what inspired her essentially to do all of her work. And she also sometimes plays with the idea of like family relationships and, you know, the mother to child relationship in a society that's going through huge changes, right? So I actually wish I would have made that image bigger, but that's okay. We can go to the next slide.
What's a weaver? I've heard weavers.
A weaver, like physically like weaving
Okay,
stuff.
I
Oh,
see.
wait, go 1 second, go back. Because I also wanted to put, so part of the thing is the Expressionists were opposed to militarism and the socialist movement that was going on towards militarism, which again is going to lead into the Nazis. So the Expressionists are pushing back against that Nazi agenda, essentially. And so that's another part of this too. So they're saying like, we want better conditions. We don't want to go for this mass militarization that the entire economy is going towards right now. This is part of the reason that Germany did so well in the beginning of World War I was they had militarized their industrial system before the war even started.
Yep.
So everyone was working towards building up this huge military, and they were doing it in bad conditions and with bad pay.
That's why
So-
America was great too, because we already had the factories in place.
Yep.
Like the Ford factories to build tanks and to build airplanes.
Ready to go. We had a militarized middle class is what they called it. So Germany before World War I had that exact same situation. So the Expressionists are pushing back against that socialist agenda. Yeah. So now we can go look at some of her bigger ones. So these are all prints that she's doing. And again, sorry that it's kind of small on the TV, but you can see there's like people sleeping on the floor. There's, you know, mothers crying over her baby in terrible working conditions. And it's essentially being like all of these people are just being used as borderline slave labor for this big machine that is the country of Germany, which again, Germany's only, what, 50 years old at this point?
50, 60.
Yeah, because, okay, Franco-Prussian War is 1871, and this is 1910. Okay, so yeah around that. So yeah, it's a brand new country, and she's basically saying, like, they're using us just for this bigger agenda and pushing back against it and saying, like, family values are more important than this war machine that they're creating. So
It's kind of cool because it's kind of like how people feel nowadays, if you think about it. How, like, history has repeated itself in that aspect of how, you know, people kind of, food's getting more expensive. People are poor. There's the most homeless in the street now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It feels like we're kind of repeating that same kind of energy of like, hey, let's not go to war right now. Let's spend all this money on war, maybe help each other out and bring back maybe not traditional family values to every extent, but like, let's make families come together more. And
yeah, and also the class system has become very divided here, where it wasn't quite as divided there yet. So she could still show like these worker movements and be like, hey, everyone should care about this. Even if you're upper middle class, you should care about this, to where here they've separated people so much that people just step over the homeless.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I can't even deal with this going on and there's no way for me to help it,
Yeah.
So at least this is like to try to be like, hey, we can still fix this problem if we address it now, sort of thing. And in post, I'll make this one bigger. It's kind of tiny here, but you see that second one up on the far right? So go over to the right, where it's death pulling the woman from behind.
Whoa.
And the baby pulling her from the front.
Whoa.
So this is death in the woman. So it's like the struggle of womanhood and motherhood of how your life is going to be, which is death pulling you back and your children pulling you forward into the living. So that's
so cool.
Fucking sick. And I love that image.
Yeah.
She's a great artist. I think at some point I'll do a whole episode on her because she's actually very fascinating. And then the one below is like, I think it's a baby over her mother or something.
That's
so very dark themes, but also like really, really cool. Yeah. So now we're getting into wartime. Yeah. Getting dark.
I feel like, who's the guy that directed Nosferatu?
The current one?
Yeah. What's his name? Because he made The Lighthouse. I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
He gets a lot.
Inspiration.
Yeah, Eggers, I feel like from her, because a lot of those images felt very.
Yeah, I could see that because I
gritty.
watched The Lighthouse and I actually kind of agree with that. I didn't watch Nosferatu yet, but
you'd love it, especially if you love that style of art.
Yeah,
it's very kind of the dark shadow. Just I
wonder if he's inspired by this.
Probably, yeah,
by these themes. Yeah. So now we're at World War I.
Whoa.
So this is the effect that the trauma of World War I had on the artists. So we're dealing with a lot of chaotic scenery. There's nothing really magic cotton candy mountain about it. It's pretty dark.
This feels like 6th Street.
Yeah.
On a Friday night. Look at the one down on the left. The one bottom left. That's 6th Street. Friday night.
That kind of is. There's like a redhead midget in the
yeah. No, she's on her knees, I think.
Is she on her knees?
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's like she's
showing people.
Yeah.
The middle image there, I cannot stop looking at that one because to me that looks so like 1980s, 1990s, like street pop art style. And look at that year, 1920, The Match Seller. How crazy is that?
That's
like it almost seems like the later artists are almost exactly ripping that image off.
But if you think about it, I don't know. If you think about it, it's
a cool painting. The perspective's strange where like the two people are, the people are like falling out.
And the dog's on them.
The dog's like and it's also in a weird contorted angle. None of the perspective is correct. That
it's
guy's
cool. Maybe it just shows like, hey man, the world is nothing really changes. Well, this is 1920. It's rich people just walking by. This is like we said, 6th Street now.
Mm-hmm.
This has always been going on. So when you like listen to the news and they're like, oh, the world's crumbling, blah, blah, blah. Is it though?
Well, Tony, I think you just made a terrible argument because this is World War I. So this is when things did go really bad. So if we're at this place again, that means things are going really bad.
Oh,
this is not good. This is like this was called the war to end all wars. This was like one of the worst things that ever happened in human history.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying the poorness.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's really a sense of like desperation in all of these images, all of them.
It reminds me of Courage the Cowardly Dog, the middle.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of like animation style.
That style is pretty dead on, yeah.
Those gas mask one is just horrifying.
Yeah.
That's just freaky.
Well, you know what I find interesting about that one too, because this is the same artist. Am I saying it right? Otto Dix?
Otto?
It's gotta be.
Okay. I'm like, it sounds bad when I say Otto Dix. It sounds like something JJ Lieberman has in his, his closet or something, the Otto Dix. But there's something, even though that's like a really dark image, that painting, and again, the first time we used chemical warfare on a mass scale like this was World War I, which is the gas mask and the mustard gas. But it's also strangely like comical.
Yeah.
Like the way they're moving around and stuff is almost like you're watching like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Versus a horror movie. There's something like weirdly comical about it also.
Yeah.
And I can't really figure out what just of me trying to like interpret that. Why I get that feeling from it, because it is such a dark painting, but I guess
how long did World War One last?
What was the years of World War One?
Because they had the Roaring 20s or whatever, like right after that, right?
Yes, so I feel like it was 7 years, but I could be like way off. I don't know why I don't.
1914 and 1918.
Jesus.
All right.
4 years? Okay, I overestimated. I don't know why I didn't know that. I have taken history before.
Yeah.
So Matt Seller's like Matt Seller, so he's already making that when it's over.
Yeah.
Damn.
But the other thing is like the war ended. That was the first time you had people with that type of PTSD.
Yeah.
We're talking about the first time the machine gun and tanks were used in war.
And also,
I know
Germany had to give up a lot. They lost
almost
the war.
everything.
They lost the war. So in the deal that was made, basically they had to pay money to the other countries.
Yeah.
And that's why homelessness happened.
Yeah,
and
y'all
you
lose wars. Ugly.
well,
It's
it's-
ugly
if
when
you
y'all
look
lose
at
a-
it, it's kind of like how America is now. You know, we spent so much money on the Iraq and Afghanistan war, and I would say we lost. Nothing's happened.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
And now
We didn't win. I know that.
And
Yeah,
all
no,
that
we haven't
money,
won
all that
shit.
money. When did it start? When we were kids, and it just ended. All that money, all that resource went there, instead of going back in the economy. And now you look, there's homeless on the street.
Yeah.
Like I said, history repeats itself in
Yeah.
that aspect of.
And Germany had an economic collapse after the war that left people starving. Now, the
Yeah.
only reason we didn't go through that is because we have like intertwined the military corporations into our own economy.
Yeah.
So when they make money, it kind of keeps the economy afloat, even though it doesn't trickle down to us. It's like we make money off war, which is the worst thing in the world. They didn't have that
Yeah.
system. So they lost all their money.
And they had
in
to get
war.
money, so they started. Dude,
Yeah.
it was crazy. My grandpa told me a story about his grandfather, where he went to the bank, and he's like a farmer,
Mhm.
and he had not a lot of money, but a little money. Went to the bank to pull out money, and they just said, "We don't have your money."
Yeah. It's
And
not
he
there.
goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We don't have it. It's gone.
Yeah.
Just
You-
everything you saved, just gone."
You done.
Yikes.
It's
Just
that South Park thing.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
And it's yeah. It was like crazy, that feeling of he worked his entire life as a farmer, just doing the right thing, and it just was
Shit.
gone because of a war.
And
yeah,
you made the perfect point to end on, because that is how Hitler rose.
Whoa.
Because Hitler came in and said, hey, they fucked you in World War
Yeah.
I. And it was the bankers, the Jewish bankers, the American bankers. They fucked you. They left the German people with nothing. And we're never going to let that happen again.
yeah.
And
Damn.
that, using that tool of what had happened in World War I, he was able to
That's
do
why-
everything that he did. So,
And that's why the thing, like, and it's a little side note, but it's like, because I know a lot about like World War I, World War II, or World War II history. That's like my thing I like in history.
oh, you
just
don't
the,
say.
the study of it.
It's like the
what you
typical
like.
white guy. I know a lot about World War II.
I also, it's just cool. I don't know. It just as like a German as well.
Yeah, of
just hearing
course,
from my
of course.
grandpa's
Yeah.
perspective. But like, it's just, that's why that's scary nowadays when like the Kanye thing, it's like, man, we got to be careful
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's easy when people are struggling, which a lot of people are right now, to just go,
To get
Shit.
caught up in the bandwagon of
Yeah.
things. We were talking about a comic earlier who's clearly caught up in the bandwagon of just hating
oh,
other
yeah.
people because
Yeah.
it promotes the thing that they're doing, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like that is like a slippery slope.
And instead of hating the actual people that are fucking us,
Yes.
to go after a race or a group
Yeah.
is crazy.
Of
to
other
me.
poor people.
Dude, that's
Why?
the craziest thing. That's what I'm saying
Why?
is it's like we don't have like that's why go after the CEOs honestly and these big companies, you know, stop shopping at their store. Go after those people.
Yeah, go
versus-
after them economically. No Luigi Mangione. We're not
Yeah,
condoning
no.
that. You're going to get me kicked off YouTube.
Yeah, don't CEOs.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be scary to, I don't know, Elon, if he died or like got or something, that would be
Crazy.
his kid. I mean, that's the closest I think we'd get to like a Batman origin story. His son, though, if he just had like
Which
a
one?
fear.
The trans one?
Yeah,
The X one, dude.
He has
The
like
X.
he has 19 sons.
Yeah,
X
he's
would be
got
a cool Batman.
he's got
X
so many
would be
kids.
Batman, bro. His name's X, dude.
That's why I love it, how Elon's like a part of the right that's very Christian. I was like, he just fucks and dumps, man. That guy.
I don't think he's Christian, is he? He can't
No,
be.
but I'm just saying conservative Christians are
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
we
yeah.
love Elon. I'm like, he's a.
I think
Yeah,
the parties are not what people think they are anymore, because I don't think that conservative and Christian are even synonymous
That's- yeah.
anymore. Because I don't think conservative is even conservative anymore. That's why Tulsi Gabbard's fucking.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like nothing is anything that you thought it was. So maybe we are about to go into some crazy fucking shit.
Do you think?
for
Can I
sure.
ask you a question? Do you think? Because I feel like art right now, especially when it comes, I don't know about that's your world paintings and stuff, but like with movies right now, some of the best movies are kind of bleak and dark. Like horror movies have made, they're surging right now. The only movies that
Yeah.
are making money besides like comic book movies and that actually tell pretty good stories and compelling stories are horror movies. Do you
I
think
have a theory on that.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm not a film person, so I can't say for sure. My theory is that horror movies have a looser rein to be able to be creative in a way that a movie that's mass produced, that's rated something more acceptable
Yeah.
for everyone, is really having their hands tied in what they can put in it, which is for a little while why they were going woke, because they were like, woke means we don't offend anyone. And if
Yeah.
we don't offend anyone, we can market it to everyone. So now the only, I hate to use this term, but the only safe space for creativity
is horror?
is horror.
But would you say
Because
with
you can
this
do
kind of
whatever.
art, because this is kind of horrific art if you think about it. It's like the images they're showing are horrific.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because the time right now? Because 1920s, it's post World War One.
I think that's why the images are this way. But I will also say some of these images were hidden. And I mean that because I mentioned earlier the Expressionists were pushing back against the socialist agenda, which was the Nazis uprising.
Yeah.
So some of these artists actually went into hiding or did not display their work for years and years and years because they were worried about the regimes that were coming into power suppressing what they were creating and that they would be put on list for creating it. So a lot of this has come out in the later half of the 20th century as works that had been hidden during this time period
Yeah.
or shipped overseas, things like that. I do think that's why the artwork was getting dark, because there was a social feeling in the air of how bad things were. You had just come out of a war, so everyone should be happy, right? But you can't be, because there's an economic collapse, and now there's this new movement coming in, National Socialism, which is not good, and people had a feeling that it wasn't good because they were like, oh, you're focusing on your hate
Yeah.
instead of making things better. So there was a lot of like turmoil that left people feeling very isolated, very dark, and yeah, it just kind of shows through in the art. So it came from happy, colorful,
Yeah, to
musical seat streams to being real fucking dark and
because
grim.
horror always comes back after war. Because you look 80s, the horror movement in the 80s, like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. That was right after Korea and Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're getting, after this war, you're getting some amazing horror directors like Robert Eggers. I'd put in, he's like an artsy horror director, but you're getting like horror is kind of the mainstream.
Yeah. Well, it's probably what we're comfortable with, right? We can
Yeah.
say everything that we want to say in that genre without being limited. And also, it's like we're already in a dark place. So why not,
Yeah.
go watch Joker? Not the new one, the first one.
Yeah.
Not two.
It's such a weird thing that I want, like, or it's like, oh, it's either like absolute horror or like a new Superman movie where you're like, all right.
But who even goes and watches the new Superman movie?
I don't
I think they
know.
just sell them to China.
Yeah.
I
Right
really,
now, it makes no money here. Like the new Captain America made no money. And it's funny on the internet, they're like, oh, it's because America's racist. And I went to go see the movie, and it's just I love the actor who's playing the new Captain America. I have
Yeah.
no issues with him. I think he's a great lead into the new Captain
I
America.
think anyone who says it's racist
story
is lying.
just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels like a comic book movie from 1995. Just so bland. The dialogue is so boring. So it's just a
It's
bad
almost
movie.
like they just had AI write it and they were
No, I
like,
think you're
Yeah.
right. They made a story that can be easily translated to a Chinese audience.
Yeah, and also not offend any particular group that's
Yeah.
going to have a pushback and say protest this movie or don't go to it.
Yeah.
Also, you can take your children to it if they're not too young. It's
Yeah.
nothing too crazy. It's the most marketable and therefore it's the least interesting.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. None of this art that we showed throughout this entire episode today would have been marketable at the time that it came out. It would have all been bad in the sense that like people would be offended by it or shocked or appalled, you know? And now looking back on it, we're okay with it. But at the time, this was like not marketable art. So that's
so
something to
cool.
think about too. Yeah. So thanks for suggesting this topic.
Thanks. No,
Yeah.
this was cool.
Did you learn something, CJ?
I learned a lot.
I did. I learned that Casa didn't do the scream, dude. Who would I fucking known that, dude? What the f? I could have. I'm about to look this up, bro.
Jesus and Judah were. I feel like we should.
Jesus and Judah kind of had something going.
And now, because this one's going on YouTube, I have to shout out my special people. So this is a special thanks to the following people because this is our curator tier. So Absent Stars. God, I can't do names. Chris Cusimano.
We love
Chris
you, Chris Mano. Thank you.
Cusimano, you're the best. Nico Lay, Robert Barnes, and Scott Kimball. I want to thank the curator people because this has been.
Robert Barnes. That's like an 80s actor. Hi.
Yeah, this has
I'm
been
Robert Barnes.
I like that.
I like that.
Yeah, this has been a crazy trip trying to keep this podcast afloat, and you guys are doing the real deal. So, Memento Mori, where can they find you guys?
Me on Instagram, the CJ Landry. Follow, please.
At comedian Tony C. Please follow us if you enjoyed us.
Yeah.
That's how we get booked at comedy clubs. It's not about how funny you are. It's about your numbers on the
Unfortunately.
screen.
And then
That is true.
also we're funny.
We're also funny.
also
So
Yeah.
kind of funny.
We're pretty funny.
That's cool.
And
Sometimes.
also subscribe to this goddamn channel.
Do
And
it.
if you don't, because I know you're watching it right now. Okay. No, we have to hit 100,000 subscribers because I already have so many strikes on YouTube and I'm about to get kicked off. So, and none of this was nudity. So stop it, YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
unfortunately.
Bye.
Wait.